A DeKalb County gas station shooting now catching the attention of Fulton County leaders. I'm Savannah Louie.
And I'm Alan Devlin. DeKalb County just added more surveillance cameras at a gas station, and now a Fulton County Commissioner wants to do the same. Some of the cameras, extra cameras I should say, in DeKalb caught the gas station gun battle last night that injured 3 bystanders. Just look at some of this video here, bullets flying. Atlanta News First anchor Tori Cooper is live at the Fulton County Government Center. So how soon could they actually take the issue up there, Tori?
Fulton County Board of Commissioner Khadija Abdurrahman is going to introduce her plan 2 weeks from now. During that time, the victims involved in this shooting will be recovering, including one of the victims who's speaking out tonight. Less than 24 hours after this jaw-dropping surveillance video captures a shootout at a DeKalb County gas station, we're hearing firsthand of what it's like to survive a moment like this.
I said I got hit twice, and
You got it.
one of the bullets still lodged in my chest, broke a couple ribs.
44-year-old Atif Hamid was filling up his tank at the Circle K gas station on Candler Road last night when suddenly he got caught in the crossfire of a shootout between 2 groups of people.
I was looking down at my phone. I heard a pop, and I was in the Jeep. You might have seen me try to go forward.
DeKalb County Police arrested 34-year-old Darius Morris, who's now facing 3 aggravated assault charges. The additional surveillance cameras that caught Morris were there because of a county ordinance passed in DeKalb last year, requiring gas stations to install cameras at gas pumps, entries, and exits.
In this day and age, in 2024, it's a crime-fighting tool.
The shooting from last night caught the eye of District 6 Fulton County Commissioner Khadija Abdurrahman, who says Fulton County needs to adopt a similar surveillance model.
So it is my goal to actually put in legislation here at the county asking all of the 15 municipalities to follow suit with what DeKalb County has done.
She plans on helping businesses find grants to fund the changes. Back at the hospital,
It's hard to breathe. Every breath you take is painful.
Atif says he's just glad a higher power was watching.
God is looking. God watches harder than any camera.
Now, we will be tracking this resolution as it makes its way in front of the Fulton County Board of Commissioners over the course of the next 2 weeks. As for Atif, he says he's just asking for prayers from the community tonight. Reporting from downtown Atlanta tonight, I'm Tori Cooper, Atlanta News First.